Hey, Chris and Shelby. Thought I would record a quick video. This is based on my conversation this morning and some changes in the Glide version of MapsFM. And so here they are. And there are still some things to be cleaned up, but I think this designer made some good steps forward with the kind of things that we want to do. So on the Places tab, we see a filter funnel here. And the first thing we have is that, I don't know that we want to use this or not, but we can filter by country, and we could spell these out in the database, so that's a little easier for people to understand. So that's number one, and then we are switching here between map and the list, and people could search for a particular place, and then they could, once they sign in, they can choose favorite cities. So let's go back to this and look at the list and see what we've got here. The problem we've had with maps is that Glide has a 1,000 city limit or pin limit, and we haven't had the money to spend for a more sophisticated map design. This gets real interesting because if you just run the numbers, if we ended up with 50 cities and they had 50 episodes each, then that's 2,500, but we're only dealing with that 50 at a time on the map. So let's start with Atlanta. And so what she did was bring this up so that the 16 episodes shows up here. I had picked an image. This is easy to do in Airtable. And then the other cool thing that it does is it highlights which categories are included, number one, and then number two is I have reworded the long, complicated Apple podcast categories, the 19 categories, into something that's simpler and can be displayed on a button. So if we clicked on history, we'd just see those, and then if we clicked on travel, we would just see those. And then the detail page goes here, as you have seen, and a couple of things about this. One is we have a nice audio player. It's not super fancy or anything, but it works, and that we don't have with the visit widget on the MapsFM main site now. The other thing that we have with these three buttons is they can download the audio file. Now this is a little different from a podcast player in that those things would come into a nice list. This just goes into the file folder on the phone or on the computer. So not as good there. And then we have this list. There are two things in Glide. The descriptions can be a text field. If it's a text field, you can truncate it and determine the number of lines that show up, but we really need to have rich text so that links show up and stuff, and if you do that, then you don't have that ability to limit it. Now the thing that Chris and I have been talking about, this is travel to Atlanta, Georgia, and the pin is just on the central latitude, longitude for Atlanta. But I think there's a way around it. Shelby, what we had called before the Bangkok problem is you'd like to have it connected to Atlanta, but if it's a general Atlanta or a general region kind of episode, then you don't really want the pin to show up. You only want the pin to show up if it's about a particular street address, a museum or historic site or something. And so there is a way, I think, to just not include, I don't know, we'll have to talk about that. That's need time for more discussion about that. And then ratings is built in here, and the way this is built in is that we would see all of these, and so could calculate ratings on each episode. And then if the listener wants to favorite this particular episode, they can favorite cities also, but they can favorite this particular episode. And then right now this is called My Stories. It could be called My Favorites, but there it is. And so they could build up essentially a playlist. Again, it's not as sophisticated as the other ones, but the podcast player playlist, but it's a start. While I'm looking at it, the little hamburger menu, they call it up here, brings down another menu with feedback, our story. Use this data, which is licensing information for people that want to license our data. So let's go back here and just go to one other city. While I'm here, do have to go back on various buttons. And then we can go to one like Chicago that I know has a lot of episodes. So 76 episodes here, more categories to choose from, the same features. And then what the system will do is you can limit the number that it shows, so you don't get overwhelmed with that. One other thing that I've done as a test with our shortened version of categories is added a completely new one. Museums is not a category in Apple podcasting, but it could be something that we could play with, and also one that would be easy to change later on, and there might be others. And you can see what's happening here is it's going to see all, and I'm not sure, that must need to be adjusted because that would have been calculated to there, but it's showing the history. So anyway, there's a way to limit the number that appear and then go to see all to see the rest of them. So I hope that's clear. I think we have potentially a lot of competitive advantage in the way that we structure these. And I'm not sure, one of them that we have on some other cities is local. And so I think it'll be an ongoing discussion about how we do that. The Discover tab would be things that aren't necessarily locations, or it would be lots of locations, but it would be a particular interest, and wineries and museums and those kinds of things. So that doesn't fully work yet. It may not be that hard to do. This brings up something unrelated to native stories, but Chris had mentioned once doing something like Black Lives Matter, and we could do some of those things seasonally or topically, which could be, I think, very powerful. So anyway, that's a lot of stuff done today, a lot more work to do. Her name is Megann Lock, and she is in Dallas, and I've talked to several glide experts. She's the best that I've run into so far. She moved really quickly in an hour today, and so I think there are some things that we need to fix, and she wasn't as familiar with Airtable, though she did a lot of good stuff on the fly. So there you go, a lot more to talk about, and I hope that's helpful. What all of this is geared toward is having something, as I mentioned in my note a few weeks ago, it'd be great to have something that we really love and that we're proud to show our friends. So that's what we're working toward here, I think, and I thought maybe a little video would be a way to save time and further the discussion. So you guys take care. Bye.